are listening to the Chompcast, an official podcast of Sword Chomp. Remember, you can always go to swordchomp.com, where you can find the many places our podcast is available for download. But if you're listening to the show right now, that means you found us. So welcome to the madness that is the Chompcast. You can also head on over to patreon.com/swordchomp if you'd like to support us financially. Either way, we're thankful you're taking the time to check out our show. More on the Patreon later. Strangely themeless show today as we discuss both Kingdom Hearts 3 First Impressions as a group, finally, and the new hit Battle Royale game from Respawn, Apex Legends. Has 10 million players right now, which is pretty crazy. And I was able to sneak an Apex Legend question into the polls as well. So we can talk about that with our @SwordChomp Instagram community. The topic of the show is all about our approach to competitive gaming, which actually does circle back around to Apex Legend after all, I suppose. We have grooves to slide our thirst for war into. And the polls we're going to run down, as I mentioned earlier, Apex Legend, Sharks vs. Hippos, Kingdom Hearts, living up to people's hopes, dreams, expectations, all that and more. So don't go anywhere, nowhere. Let's get to some quick intros here, just in case it's your first show. But either way, we want to kind of warm things up, get you to know the crew a little bit. It's going to be talking to you over the next couple hours. Up first, from Texas, we have the Filipino Johnny Depp. Anthony Fisher is here, a.k.a. Fish, if you're nasty. Fish, I have a question for you. I know we've been smashing a little bit this week.
We've been smashing real good.
But what happened to my free wins? Well, where did my free wins go?
Your free wins? I got some of them. No, I found a character that I can actually, beat
you
your ass
found
with.
one. That's
Yeah.
Well, let's slow that down a little bit. That's a little bit of a beat your ass.
Gave me a competitive edge against you. So much so that I'm sure you were throwing your Switch in frustration over the amount of times I beat you in sudden death with Richter.
Yeah, I was very angry. Yes, I drop kicked my Switch at one point. Luckily it missed the television, so that could have been bad. Yeah, rage problems. Yeah, who's your character? Who did you find, Fish? Who did you hit your sweet spot with?
Richter Belmont.
Richter Belmont.
From Castlevania, yeah. He has a couple of projectile moves, and he also has his whip as well, which is pretty cool. I don't know, I like his moveset. I like what all his moves kind of mesh well with my playstyle and my strategy in a battle as far as Smash goes. So yeah, I'm glad I found him. Other than that, I was just floundering around, just picking pretty much not at random, but just characters that I figured I'd be good with. But
did you literally discover him right when we started battling? Was that just completely random?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God, that's terrible luck on my part. It's terrible luck.
Yeah.
Terrible luck. Yeah, no, it was, so we kept getting into sudden death, and then I had to, it was just frustrating because he had this, he would just start throwing shit at me from a distance, and we had 7 sudden death matches out of 10, and then the only way I found to get around him and start kicking his ass was to pull out Fish's favorite character of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's the appeal of Smash Brothers. There's nothing sweeter than kicking your friend's ass with a character that they despise with every fiber of their fishy being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You also played him in a very annoyingly way as well.
Well, I mean, Sonic, he's kind of designed to be annoying because he just over and over again.
God, that's hot. That sound is haunting me in my nightmares.
But no, he helped me in sudden death because of the lock on and the speed. But it was still fun. We're both equally about the same level. Where Josh kicks our ass. That one night we played with Josh, he kicked our ass 30 times in a row. We never beat him once. So me and Fish are about at the same level, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was fun. Glad you're here, Fish, of course. I actually have an amazing voice message that has to do with that, so you got to stick into the end of the show. It's raunchy, it's crazy. Fish gave me full permission to play it, but you got to stick into near the end of the show if you want to hear it. It's a big radio teaser. Joshua Fowler is here from Michigan, the Jimmy Rustler. Josh, I've noticed that when it comes to war, you've been feeling groovy, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to my 1994 Austin Powers jokes. All right.
It's about time those came back.
My wife actually had no idea what Austin Powers was. It was a very startling revelation. Yeah.
Oh, no.
I made her watch like 20 minutes of it, and she thought it was the dumbest thing she's ever seen.
She was probably right.
It holds up in a very strange way. You know, those kind of Michael Myers humor was very much.
I think holds up is a bit of a stretch.
Come on, didn't you like? Did anybody here really like the Austin Powers movies at the time? I'll admit that I did at the time.
Yeah, of course, at the time.
The first one was all right.
Yeah, I mean, if we start judging everything by how it holds up 10 years from now, we're not going to like anything, or very little. Anyway, it's groovy, baby. You've been playing some War Groove. I've noticed. You getting your kid on that train too, the War Groove train?
Yeah, she has been really into it. I didn't even show it to her or anything. She was just turning the switch on to play something else at one point, and I saw that on there and turned it on, and she's been playing it just about constantly since then. Just really got into it. Has been making her own maps and surprised me how much she got into a tactics game just out of nowhere.
That's a dark road, Josh. Then she's going to be, it's a gateway drug to other frustrating games like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. You got to be careful. Got to be careful with that. Have you shown her Into the Breach? You should show her Into the Breach now. She should be ready for the Apex.
Yeah, I might have to eventually get that on Switch.
Oh, you don't have it on Switch. Okay.
Yeah, no, I have it on PC just because it still just plays better on there than with the controller, but kind of oddly enough, the opposite of War Groove. Like, that thing was designed for a controller first, and the PC UI is a little strange. But yeah, I need to eventually get that for Switch so she can check it out.
I wonder if you'll change your mind when you play it, because I remember playing it on Switch and thinking it felt great. So just because it's really simplistic. So, and the computer felt great too. PC felt great too. But yeah, I think it works really well. I just love the idea that your kid looks up to you and she's like, "Yeah, Dad, this is Game of the Year. What? This is great." Probably easy. There's an easy mode there. Does she play it on? Is there like a lower difficulty in War Groove, or is she just going right in on the standard?
It has like difficulty sliders that you can change for your you could either change it so you're not taking as much damage, or change it so you could basically just have like more income every turn.
Oh, okay.
And for the most part, she's been playing on normal. I think like one time she turned up her income, like maxed it out just to kind of see what happened. But other than that, she's been playing through on normal.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people talking about War Groove. Is getting some buzz. Well, that's cool. All right. Well, glad you're here, Josh, and of course from Japan. Professor Layton is here. Shea Layton. Shea was telling us that he is hot on that. He needs that Apex Legends injected right into his veins right now. He's in a.
Yeah, I'm digging it a lot.
Would you say you're
a lot
addicted?
A lot.
I like. Do you love me? I like you a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going for, too. Like, how much do you like me? A lot. How much is a lot? A lot. Yeah, just like the good old middle school days of when you were, on Valentine's Day, you were trying to think of this brilliant idea due for your teenage significant other, so you went and bought all those sweetheart candy hearts and you made a really lovely poem and you spent hours on it, and then you glued the little heart pieces into this letter, and you didn't really think about how you were going to fold this letter because you didn't think about the size of the candy, but that didn't fucking matter. So you had it kind of crumpled in your backpack, and then the next day you went to school, and then you're like, when should I give this to her? And you're thinking about the right time, and then you guys were in the library, and you're like, oh, by the way, I made this for you. And then you give it to her, and you're like, oh yeah, I did a really fucking good job. I'm this sweet, romantic, badass guy. And then all of a sudden, she starts laughing at you, and then she throws it in the garbage, and then you realize, oh wow, she just wasted all my candy that I could have eaten.
I remember that.
And then you feel really sad.
I remember that from your Valentine's Day show. I remember that story.
Yeah.
We're going to hear this story once a year.
Yeah.
For all of time. But that's okay. That's what being friends is all about.
That's true. It's true. Dealing with my memory loss. Because I remember this one time on Valentine's Day when I had this brilliant idea in middle school to make this...
Too soon?
Shea, if it's any consolation, Fish's high school sweetheart was a bottle of Jergens. So I think it's all right.
Just dip the whole thing in the Jergens? I mean that bottle has such a narrow top. How could you actually feel anything with that micro penis?
Well, you can still get sensation with, just a drop of
Is it the ribs on the outside of the bottle? You just rub it on the ribs and
God, I got this image of this microscopic of a penis just rubbing up against a lotion bottle and
yeah. No,
That's
he
all right.
didn't actually screw the top off. It had one of those little clicky flip tops with like 3 little holes kind of at the end.
Oh
there.
yeah.
Yep.
oh,
that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Fish may have
like
a
for
micro
each
those are
day of
only
the
for
weekend.
shampoo.
It was funny when he mentioned that to me. He's like, "What? You didn't do that when you were a teenager, Morgan?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." But
Did you guys ever? And I think I've asked you guys this actually on the podcast before. Did you ever do the whole warm the banana peel in a microwave trick, like they talk about on Weeds?
No, I've never heard that or seen that show.
Mm-mm.
No. So there's this part. Can
you tell me more about it?
Yeah, there's this part in season 2 where Andy, Shane's cousin, Shane's like the young kid, he catches his nephew throwing a bunch of socks in the toilet because he's just, hit that point where his body's starting to change. And so Shane does his thing in the socks and then throws them in the toilet and tries to flush them down the toilet. And it actually clogs the pipes so bad that they have to hire a plumber, and the plumber tells Andy what's going on. So Andy goes to have this really weird sex and hilarious and awkward sex talk with Shane, and he tells him one of the ways that Shane can relieve himself instead of doing it into socks is to take a banana, pull it out of the banana peel, warm it up into the microwave, and then use that.
Ugh, seems smelly. Strange. I don't know. That's weird. It's like they were like going for the American Pie thing, but they were like, no, we need to be different, so let's do a banana peel. I mean, how many objects can you really use? Really anything if you're creative, I guess.
I think it's like a bong, Morgan. Like, if you try hard enough and you MacGyver it,
yeah, you can
anything can be a pocket pussy.
Anything. It's funny when fish is really ornery.
Ornery.
That's what he's ornery and ornery. Yeah.
He's ornery and horny. He's ornery.
He just turns into like this fucking MacGyver ass brilliant scientist, just concocting all these crazy. Why was he flushing him though? That's odd to me. Like, why not just wash him? Was he embarrassed? He was trying to hide him or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
But we should probably get in the video
that's because kids
now.
grow. No, this is great. This is the best part of the show. I would just say that. That's why I think you should raise your kids.
Such a ring endorsement.
It's the best part of our show. I just
Speaking of dick jokes.
if you raise your kids without
Speaking
shaving,
of dick jokes.
it won't happen. It won't happen. Yeah, thanks for being here, Shea. Of course. We'll talk some Apex Legend in a bit.
I'd rather talk about pecs. Apex.
You would. Let's do I don't think pecs are really that interesting. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm going to put my pecs bias on you. Yeah, my name is Morgan, aka General Mountain Time here in Montana, and I love cats. Now, it's going to be a fun show today. The first thing we're going to talk about is our topic of the show, and that is all about competitive gaming. All right, so been thinking a lot about this. We'll get there, Josh. Don't worry. Been thinking a lot about this because we've been playing some Smash, and we kind of have our run-ins with a lot of competitive games, and the competitive nature of games is just huge now, especially with Twitch streaming and a lot of focus on esports. But we as a group have not always been super into competitive games, so I thought it'd be super interesting to talk about. Now, having said that, of course, we all know Josh really loved Overwatch and has played it religiously for a long time, and we've all had our streaks with stuff like that. So the idea is sort of like, what is our approach to competitive games? What, likes, dislikes, stuff like that. It's kind of a free-for-all, just fun question. And we're going to get help from the Instagram community. By every Thursday at Chomp on Instagram, we'll do a question of the week. And if you leave a nice comment, we might read it on the show. So that's where it started. Think about games like Smash and stuff like that. I will say this to kick things off. I think the issue for me with competitive games is that I can't see Fish. I want to see Fish's face whenever I'm saying, "Get in here, Fish! See my face!" Sorry, Fish is on the webcam.
Can you see me?
It's a visual gag, and Shea ran away, of course. Because of course he couldn't pee before the show. He had to wait 10 minutes till the show started. I think the biggest thing that drives me, when I was younger, how about this? Games that you felt, you'll start with this. Games that you guys feel like for some reason in your life you were actually pretty good at for whatever reason, that you felt like you could at least hold your own competitively. Because I'm curious to see what that'd be for you guys. Like, I know Josh has Overwatch as a big one. Josh is pretty much good at everything. Fish, if you were to say, what's two games off the top of your head that you can look back on your life and be like, you know what? I was strangely good at those games competitively.
Back in the day, PvP and any MMO, I felt like I was pretty good at.
Okay.
Man, that just brings back memories of whenever World of Warcraft introduced PvP or World PvP before they started adding those instances and everything where you would go into like the Warsong Gulch, I think is what it was called. I got real competitive in those games where it was like capture the flag or that type of stuff, or just killing other players. I felt that like I could really hold my own playing as a rogue in that game.
What was it? Do you think it was because you were really what separated someone in that game? Because that's a stat-driven game, and I never really got into the PvP. Right. Although I thought the world stuff was cool. Like if you just came across somebody and you were Alliance and they were Horde and you got into a fight. I always thought that was cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well.
What was this?
What?
I was gonna say, what was the separation? Like, what made you better than somebody else in a game like that, where it's really stat driven and you're just kind of clicking away?
Strategy, like knowing when to attack, when not to attack, and that's a lot more easier for like a rogue, who's more of like a lone type of attack type person. But it's always nice that have like a healer type supporting you if shit gets hairy, and knowing when to pick your own targets. Like there's definitely a lot of strategy that's involved, and I feel like all that made sense to me as far as like the PvP and World of Warcraft went.
There's like cooldowns and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning
using the correct abilities against different classes that you're attacking and stuff like that. I would say another game that I enjoyed competitively, but didn't necessarily feel... It felt like more like, like a nice pickup game of like playing soccer with friends, and that's Rocket League.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think you were good at Rocket League, huh? All right.
Yeah, I wasn't the best, but like, I would see, like the more awesome players. Like, I'd get matched up against like a team of 3 people, and I'd have randos with me, and the other team would have like these aerial kicks where they would be able to pass the ball up in the air to each other, and like they'd have one just like jet rocket into like a perfect hit on the ball to just slam it down into the goal. And like it was mesmerizing. I was like, I'm never gonna get that fucking good at this game, but
Yeah,
I'm still having fun, like trying to defend against them, because like no matter how good the other team is, like you can still have your small little victories, whether it's blocking a goal or being able to steal the ball from them and make a run towards their goal.
The one-on-one element of that game was oddly fun because you had to do everything by yourself.
Right.
And it's like me and Shea had some pretty intense one-on-one I would love to watch you and Shea go at it one-on-one. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. I mean, I have it on PC. Eventually, I'll get a good PC that can run.
Well, it's
that game.
crossplay. It's crossplay. I think you can play anybody anywhere.
Oh, yeah. It's even on the Switch too, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is on the Switch.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Rocket League and early. Wow, that's a nice delving into Fish's brain there. What about you, Josh? We know about your Overwatch mastery, and your Smash Brothers mastery, and just about everything else that you're great at.
Yeah, I want a second WoW PvP, because as much as it seemed stat based, like once you kind of got to the high end, stats were basically the same everywhere, and there was like it's one of those things where it was kind of imbalanced until the very, very high end, at which point it becomes essentially perfectly balanced, and it actually was really good. But like Warsong Gulch in particular is probably just one of the best PvP experiences in a game, period. Like they tried other stuff before with things like, like they've got Alterac Valley, which was just like a massive no, that wasn't before Warsong Gulch, but like WoW has tried a bunch of different things as far as PvP modes, but just a simple capture the flag game with, MMO characters worked so well. Like it really was. It's just one of the best game modes out there.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got all sorts of memories from Warsong Gulch from back in my WoW days. That's always fun.
That's a good one, yeah.
As far as like taking something super seriously, I've not really done that with a lot of games. I just generally haven't had the time with the podcast and everything to really get into a game and play it to that sort of a point. Like I've, kind of tried to keep up with Overwatch since that came out, although, since it's, 3 years old now? Almost 4? Or almost 3? I'm not sure.
It would have been Game of the Year
4.
when we first started. It would have been, the first year we started, so.
But, considering everyone else who's playing it has also been playing that long, it's not like I'm getting better as much as just keeping up with everyone else who's also getting better.
Do you still have a high rank in that game? What are the, like...
Not really. No, like I've not gone for a rank in several seasons. Like I've mostly just kind of been screwing around in quick play with friends the last several seasons, which is fun too, because the ranking system in that game is still not the best. But yeah, like it's a strange game because it's so team based and tuned for esports amazingly well. But the way the ranked system works is still just awkward, and doesn't really doesn't really make the best games. You don't really get the best matches in competitive.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. And obviously Overwatch became a sensation. I should have flipped it around for you and asked you what games you sucked at, because you're good at everything.
Plenty of them. Like, I suck at like StarCraft, Warcraft, all the RTS games. I love them, but I'm fucking terrible at those games.
I heard that.
Yeah, like just the amount of multitasking
that.
going on in order to even be remotely competent at one of those games is just beyond me.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's unreal how many things they're just tracking at all times.
Maybe if you were Korean, you'd have a better shot.
Yeah, like I can barely keep my build order together. Like, okay, let's another supply depot. Oh crap! I'm like, end up, yeah, it just never on time. So
it never worked for me because the only part of the game I liked was the building of stuff. So I'd be sitting there like, I'm gonna build some. Oh, and then this guy would be invading my base, and like, no, I'm trying to build these. What's going on?
We eventually need to get you a computer that's not, infected with everything, with all the things. And
definitely not porn.
Yeah,
it's not infected.
We can actually play some StarCraft, because they've actually got game modes on there where, like, instead of having like a 2v2 where you're both controlling an army, where like you can share controlling an army, to have somebody like build everything and have somebody else control the units. We could do something like that, just so each of us is only having to focus on half the stuff in that game, which is still overwhelming.
Yeah. That's right. Split the brain in half.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think you want my half of the brain for that, but thank you. Shea, what about you? Like, when you look back on your life, what's like 2 games that stick out to you as like games that you find yourself strangely, let's say, competent at or good at? Shea Layton, Earth to Shea Layton.
Sorry. I thought it lagged for a second. I didn't hear you at all. I apologize. One of the ones that actually, when I thought about this question, when I kind of was trying to fine tune it, essentially, was I was thinking about Rock Band, because when I first started playing that game, I used to only do the guitar, and I would just do it for pleasure type of thing. Always wanting to feel like I could play in a rock band, but living in Great Falls, Montana, you can't really it's not easy to get musicians together to play in a band. So that was the next best thing. But then I got that the drum kit, and I've talked about this plenty of times, and it really kind of defined who I would become henceforth. And one of the things is I would practice almost daily for an hour. And it got to the point where, like, there were certain parts of songs that would really frustrate me. So I'd actually go into the practice menus on that game, and I would sit down and I would practice certain parts over and over again, and I'd slow it down and I'd speed it up. And it's very similar to how a musician does it. Like, if you're playing a song, you're learning a song, and there's a specific part that's particularly difficult to you. All the best musicians, and I'm not saying I'm a good musician, I'm just saying all the quality ones, they sit down, they take that part that's giving them a difficult time, and they just play it over and over and over. They really break it down, and they figure out why this particular part gives them so many issues. And then they just, they play it at a slow tempo, and they slowly build it back up to normal speed, and then they're good. And that's kind of one of the things that I would do on my free time with Rock Band when I was struggling with a song, or I wanted to get better at something. If like I'm trying to hit 30-second notes on the hi-hat pad, or on the hi-hat on the drum kit, for me that's a little bit more difficult going that speed. So I have to practice that. And if I want to play against other people online, and I know that song might be selected because it's a difficult song, I need to make sure I'm able to play that part. So for me, that was part of the strategy of going into that game, just playing certain parts over and over again that were difficult for me, so I could become better at them when I played people online. That was one of the first ones I thought of when I came up with this topic.
It's funny you mention that because I was gonna be cute with my answer too, but mine was the same with Guitar Hero. But I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, that's you don't really think of it as competition, but it really is because if you had someone, well, that's weird because how does that work? Like for me with Guitar Hero, if someone came over and they were also really good at the game, you could have like a guitar duel and it would keep track of your points and your percentage and stuff. But with the drumming, you couldn't really have another person come over and have a drum off, right? You know what I mean? So you're basically competing
you just do it online. You do it online.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would do that online sometimes. If I wanted to boost my ego and be like, hey, watch me play this plastic
hop on that
drum
cyber
set.
drum circle.
Yeah, you better watch out, motherfucker. It's like Scott Pilgrim for basement dwelling nerds is essentially like that.
Scott Pilgrim.
Sorry, that was a really creepy laugh, and I apologize for that.
Nah, you're good. But the other one that I really thought of with this is, and I hate that I always use these two as
Let me guess. Can I guess?
Yeah.
Modern Warfare.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you get the lag. Modern Warfare.
Just Call of Duty in general, man. But yeah, specifically Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare 1 and 2, I took way too seriously. Again, I've documented that on here plenty of times. But I would go into games and I typically stuck to the guns I knew because, that's the thing. You develop these abilities with the things that you like and you become better at it. But sometimes I would try and use different weapons to get better at them, just to make myself more well-rounded in the game for some reason, because I took it, again, way too seriously. And I would play these different modes. Like, you have search and destroy, you have the hardcore mode, you have the plain team deathmatch mode, and since then it's obviously branched out into a plethora of modes. But I would play these certain ones, and I would play these certain maps, and I would try different styles. I would try camping for like an hour, or I would try, kind of a run and gun style. I would try these different strategies because, that's how you get better at a game, like a fighting game or like a shooting game. Is you have to try these different strategies because you have to be able to adapt to what the other players are doing. It's very similar to a sports game, whether it's basketball or football, or hockey or soccer. You have these set plays essentially, and you have to be able to know how to play as those set plays because you have to be able to know how to counteract them. And that was a big thing I was trying to do when I was a lot younger. I was rolling with more people on that game. We had a consistent crew or consistent people that I would rotate playing with. And it was just figuring out each person's playing style and trying to curtail your strategy to what the opponent's doing. Or if you're selecting a strategy and you're going on the offensive, basically how does the other team react? What kind of split-second decisions can you make strategy-wise that defeats that team?
Yeah.
And I would like to, in theory, say I did that all the time, and I didn't. A lot of time when I spent playing that game, it was just me running around shooting people, not really developing strategy. But towards the end, I really started to try and develop more strategy and play more. But, that's when my friend circle started kind of coming off that game. I started, on the tail end of me getting bored playing that game and wanting to play that game. And, I just think that's really how you have to approach shooting games in general. It's something I'll get into later when we talk about Apex Legends, but it's interesting as you get older, the more experience you have, like what kind of strategies you develop and how your playing style really changes as well, because you have to think about the hand-eye coordination and the split-second decision making, which slows down over time. So it's very similar with sports too, basketball. You can't, like, if you're a basketball player that completely relies on athleticism, like someone like John Wall or Russell Westbrook, at some point your body's gonna slow down. You know, Russell Westbrook's probably not the best example because he's a freak athlete and he's still going at 30 years of age. But, you know, there are other players that when they rely on just their athleticism, they do not age well in the game. Whereas over time, if you develop strategies that kind of offset that you're losing your athleticism, then you become a better player. And I think that's kind of how video games work too. You know, the prime of your life is in your late teens, early 20s as a gamer, because that's when your reactionary skills are so quick. But as you get older, you kind of have to adjust that play style. You have to adjust your play style to be able to still be competitive.
Especially with something like Twitch reflex oriented, like a lot of shooters. Like when I was the other day, I was watching that Ninja play Apex Legends, and he just it's so twitchy and movie. It's just insane. You know what I mean? And it's as opposed to maybe a game that's more traditionally strategy based, where it's more about like a lot of that, like you were saying, Shea, like Tom Brady won a Super Bowl. He's an old man. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's smarter than everyone because he's played for 20 fucking years. So if you can find something where you can like. Usually outsmarting your opponent is the best way to go. Like that's the only way I was able to beat Fish when he was pissing me off that night. Consistently as I switched, I had to pull my head out of my ass and be like, okay, stop using Donkey Kong. Stop using Donkey Kong. Think about why you're dying. Okay, I'm dying in sudden death. Okay, well, how can I get around him in sudden death? I'll get this fast character that can launch right at him. And it worked because I had to, try to outthink the situation. I didn't get any better at the game. I just was trying to get around the curveball he was throwing me. And I think that's what's interesting about those things. I would say for me, the Guitar Hero is one. Shea already kind of hit all the major points on that one. I will say true story, Fish, I don't know if you remember this because you were with me in the apartment days, but nobody could touch me in Guitar Hero. I was like a god at that game. Mostly because I already played guitar in real life. So it was kind of a natural transition for me.
Yeah. I mean, if you have really good rhythm and like good hand-eye coordination, like you do well in that game.
And so I was gonna make a dirty joke and I deferred. But I met this kid named Brian. I don't know if you remember him, Fish. I'll just say his name was Brian. And he was a coworker of mine, and he came over to our house one day, and he was the first kid I ever met that could hold his own with me in Guitar Hero, and he could actually beat me. And I remember it was like a punch to my gut. I was like, oh my God. It's like this skinny little stoner kid that I work with that could just shred the hell. And I was like, no one's ever beat me. No. Now, again, that was my tiny ass town. And I played a lot of people, but it's still a very small sample size. And then once the rise of like speed metal, became popular, like with Dragon Force and stuff like that. There's people just trying to learn these impossible solos online. And you see a 6-year-old shredding Dragon Force online, and you're like, okay, well then why am I even here? What am I even doing with my life, But it was fun for a while. That was one game I felt like I had an advantage because I was already a musician. So I was like, the other one, and so Shea already covered that a lot, but yeah, we're both on the same page there. And then the other one was the first Halo, the very first Halo. I remember me and Josh used to like try and find LAN parties and stuff, but we'd carry our little controllers across the military base. we did that one time. We went to a LAN party. And it was fun, and we did pretty good. But it was like a fun experience because that was when LAN parties were like.
Yeah, I was way worse at a LAN party because I was a fucking king at screen watching. Because like, there's just not enough going on in that game to not be looking at the other 3 people playing, so you can snipe them as soon as they walk around a corner.
Well, you were a sniper. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, as soon as we actually didn't have that cheat for me, I was a lot worse than I was anytime I'm playing against somebody else on the same screen as me. Yeah. I used to make Morgan so angry because I'd preemptively launch rockets at him right as he was approaching a corner because I could tell exactly where he was going.
It's like those. Those are the good old days. Those really were. Screen watching was in itself a strategy.
That's
was really what it was.
It was like if you had enough concentration to be able to watch 2 screens at once, it was a huge advantage.
It really was. Everyone did it. We were all dirty cheaters. But yeah, we played each other so much in that game that we all got pretty good at it because we just played it all the time. And like the simplicity of the original Halo, I generally prefer things that are a little more simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start including a bunch of like RPG elements and shields and abilities, it just becomes a little much for me. Like something about the original Halo I love because it was just very simple. You had 2 kinds of grenades, like 4 or 5 kinds of weapons, a tiny arena, and that was it. It was very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that element of it. And then Halo got crazy, and everyone got really good. So Halo's very different nowadays. But on that note, so those are some things we've laid out there, some of our approaches. Kind of give some people a peek into us because maybe they're a new listener to the show and they don't want to go dig back to all those older episodes. Although you should because they're great. So and that's a good transition, I think, to some of these listener comments that we can bring in here, talk more about. Every Thursday on the Sword Chomp Instagram page, like I mentioned, we will bring up a question of the week and we try to grab some comments to read on the show, talk about, discuss, things of that nature. And this was all about competitive gaming this week. And as I pulled up here, we got some good responses. So the first one here I have is from our good friend Hakuna Matata. I usually just play for fun. VIP Hakuna Matata, we love you. But I can get pretty competitive if I find a decent team. Oftentimes I just get on to have a good couple of games. And that's a big part of it if the game is, team oriented. If you get stuck with some randos who are not willing to work with you as a team, you're not probably going to have a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Which is what's interesting about Apex Legends that we'll talk about in a bit because they force you to play as a team. It's only team-based right now. 3 players. There's no solo.
I will say, though, like, whenever I came into, like, a randos game in Sea of Thieves, and they were really good, I enjoyed that. But, there isn't that camaraderie that I get, out of them whenever, as opposed to playing with you guys, so... I mean, it's a trade-off, but like, if I actually really wanted to get into that competitive side of the nature of a video game, like playing with people of higher caliber can be fun because you get to see different strategies and kind of the meta of the game at that point.
You saying you like playing Sea of Thieves with someone who knows how to operate the sails?
Yeah. Somebody who knows which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah, someone who can tell which way north is.
If only I could piss in that
with
game.
A compass.
Piss into the wind, and then I'll know which way. Oh, my piss is flying back in my face. Josh, turn the sails north. That's true. But no, yeah, there's like a silent respect when you're with someone and you're doing good, but you can't talk. There's like this weird, like, unspoken sort of vibe. You're like connecting a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of Apex Legends, that, like you're saying with that, you're forced onto a team, which is a good thing. So it's like all squad based stuff. But the randos can be so random. Like, it's basically the only random groups I've ever gotten on there have been immediately die, like 20th out of 20 or second. Like there's nothing in between.
On Apex now?
No, he's just kind of going back and forth.
No, just like
I didn't know if we are going in now.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there eventually, but
I was ready.
But yeah, like it's the random nature of it. Like whether or not they're willing to cooperate with you is such a huge deal.
There's no middle ground. Yeah. There's no middle ground.
There isn't.
Great
you
or
can't.
awful.
You can't just kind of halfway scrape by on there. Like you're either cooperating or you're not on there. And yeah,
I agree. Kilted Gamer said, "I don't compete, plain and simple. The reason being is I'm not nearly good enough to compete in any game, and that's okay by me. I don't have the time to put into a competitive game now. I'm just playing for fun." Which I will say generally I agree with, because I was going to tell you guys this is my starter and I totally forgot. But like for me, I don't get happy when I win. I get relieved And when I lose, I get angry. So there's really no win-win for me. I'm either like, oh, thank God fish didn't beat me and I don't have to kick my controller. Or I have to kick my controller. So I don't really, there's no middle ground. There's no happiness there for me. It's all pain.
That's a really good point, actually. Something I've never really thought about in a way, because, I talked about it a few weeks ago, like with Magic the Gathering. That was a lot of why I still played. I wanted to feel that feeling of relief. And if I didn't win, I'd get angry. And that's a lot of like why I continue to play a lot of games semi-competitively online, like Call of Duty. At first, I enjoyed winning very much. And then it got to the point where, I just wanted to feel relieved. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's something I hear a lot of coaches in professional sports talk about, because they'll win like a big game and they're just like, honestly, I feel more relieved that I'm not going to be in hell for the next 6 months of this offseason. And it's just like, God damn, what a career that is, It's like, the town's not going to hate me for the next 7 months. And yeah, it's interesting, but I think deep down we do admire.
It's either win or go home as the most overpaid loser in the entire city. So I can see that there.
Well, and I think deep down we all admire a level of competition even when we lose, because that's what makes it fun. But it's a hard boundary to find. Like I always thought when I got older I'd hit that point where I'm like, you know what, that was a great game, good job. But it's never like that. I still just get mad, and I'm just like, I'm 30 years old. Like I don't even care that much. And then the second I lose, I care, And I make it worse on myself because I taunt Fish with terrible pictures of Donkey Kong's penis just to rub it in his face. So then I'm just like, I'm stoking the fire with.
Just driving my rage further till one day I just beat your ass mercilessly.
It's too bad you're just a rat in a cage. Crunky said, if I'm serious about it, I'll do a few practice runs.
Smashing pumpkins?
Thanks for ruining the joke. If I'm serious about it, I'll do a few practice runs and quick play before starting a competition. If I'm losing more than winning, I stop playing and switch to a different game. So her rationale is just, I'll try it out, and if it's not about 50-50 or I'm losing too much, then I bail, which is logical, because if you're losing, you're not going to have fun. I mean, I think that's fair to say. No one has fun when they lose. No one wants to feel like a loser.
Yeah, oftentimes whenever I'm losing a lot and I realize that I have to, whenever, the get good phrase kicks into my head, I'm like, do I really want to get good at this game? That's usually the breaking point for me, where I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to invest all this time into this game. Just because,
you have to love. I think you really just have to love the game, what it's offering you. Like I wish Into the Breach had some sort of competitive mode, because I love that game. I don't even know how they do it, so I'm not just gonna sit here and say they could or should do it. But like if something like that had it, that would be amazing. You know what I mean? Because the game speaks to me. But
yeah, they couldn't. I mean, they could put competitive in there, but it would be nothing even remotely alike. Because
what if we could all grab a mech? Like all three people, we each control one mech.
I mean, that could be done, but like other than that, like the main conceit that you can see what the enemy's about to do can't be done in a 2-player game like that, because like
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Just take that away. Leave it a mystery. I guess. Yeah, that's true though. That's why it wouldn't work. Sadly, that's probably why I like it.
If you're gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. If you do that, then I'm gonna do that.
It's like chess, where you hold the piece out. I can put this right here.
Yeah, it would end up being eBay bidding the game, because you're both sitting there waiting until the last second to finally finalize what your move is really going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, 2 more here. Just the 85 said, I like to play for fun and also do competitive play. I love to win, but I've never broken a controller. You can learn more from your losses than victories. Now that is true. I have learned a great deal from the bad mistakes I have made in games, and there is value in that for sure. I was joking about breaking a controller. That's why a couple people mentioned it. I, to this day, have never actually broken a controller. One time I told you guys with Bloodborne, I think maybe I did break the controller of Bloodborne. It wasn't competitive, though. I don't remember. It's been a while. Last one. This is a funny one. TJ Ski said, 0 broke controllers, but I curbed my controller throwing habit after it went wireless. because that SNES controller was like a damn boomerang. They build those tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. All wired in there. You're like, and it would just bounce right back at your face.
Mm-hmm.
Whiplash. God, it's true. I'm glad they built those old controllers tough. The Switch, on the other hand,
Sure
when I
helped.
grab it and start to bend it like a board because I'm so mad, I feel it. I can hear it cracking. And I'm like, probably shouldn't do that. Probably a bad idea.
Probably not, but fuck it.
Rage is such...
Just loosen up that motherboard.
My wife actually looked at me one time. I lost a fish in this really dumb... So this is a good story. It's really short. I lost a fish in that we were just messing around. It was a horrible map. Again, that's me making excuses, and I will make excuses. It was this weird like tree map, and I had the game won, so I ran to the corner of the map, and I sat there with a shield, and there was like 4 seconds left. And fish came running over at me. All he had to do was either attack him or do anything logical, and I had it won. And he runs all the way over to me as my shield is down, and there's like literally 0.001 seconds on the clock, and he does a smash attack, and I die. And it sends us to sudden death, and I just throw my fucking controller into the couch. That's my safety net. I throw it into the couch because it can't break. And she looked at me and she's like, "This is disgusting. Whatever you are right now, this is very unattractive." I was like, "Oh, yes, you're probably right. I need to stop doing this." Because, you know, if your women or your significant other sees you do that, they just like, it makes you look like a child. And I was like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's right. I should probably not do that. Of course, as soon as she left the room, I kept doing it. Anyways, it's thanks for your comments and questions, or I guess just comments. So I will tag you in the post when it goes live. Wasn't any questions really, and that gives us a nice bridge to something like Apex Legend, which we were kind of dabbling into a little bit. We've all spent a couple games with it, except Fish, I don't think. This game is interesting because... Sorry, let me move my mic. This game is interesting because it is one of those games that just came out of nowhere. The beautiful age we live in. Just, hey, guys, this game dropped today. Shea was talking about it. He kept calling it Titanfall Battle Royale. And then I was like, I've never heard of Titanfall Battle Royale. And then people started messaging me about it. And then it was all over Twitter. They're like, oh, my God, this Apex Legend thing. People don't shut up about it. So we had to play it. It's our solemn duty to do these things. Now, Shea, I was predicting you'd probably enjoy this game a lot after I spent some time with it. I put that in my notes. I didn't know you'd get addicted or not, but I was thinking maybe you would because, you know, you have that penchant for like Call of Duty from your childhood. And Respawn, you know, what they made Modern Warfare before they made games like Titanfall. So it still has that like core. Like the weird thing about this game is it's basically sort of like the speed and feel of something like Call of Duty, but with like the Overwatch style, like hero based thing. And then, you know, emphasis on teams. And they got rid of the mechs from Titanfall and some of the wall running and stuff like that. So it feels a little more like a Call of Duty to me, but it's the emphasis on the teamwork and sort of that. They definitely seem to me like they're leaning into that Overwatch hero stuff to mix that into the Battle Royale, which is smart. But yeah, anyway, Shea, I thought you'd love it because it feels a lot like Call of Duty. It's got that snap to it and that pop.
Yeah, it feels really good. I haven't played many of the Battle Royale games. I pretty much just played Fortnite and this. Never could play PUBG because I didn't have my Xbox at the time. I didn't play the Call of Duty one because I'm checked out of the Call of Duty franchise. I don't remember if there are any other Battle Royale games. I'm sure there are. But, yeah, this one just, it feels a lot better than Fortnite. And I don't mean to shit on Fortnite. I'm just, from my personal perspective and what I like, it just feels a lot tighter than Fortnite. I really like that it's in first person, first and foremost. The third person of Fortnite, I mean, it's a different feel, but to me, it feels, I can't think of a better word, juvenile in a way. Just the whole game feels juvenile now, you know, just the art direction of it. And it's not a bad art direction at all. Just like everything about it feels very juvenile. Or a step down, I guess. It just has that Minecraft meets easy shooter feel. But this game, it just feels a step above. It has a lot more complexity involved in it. Like, you can pick up weapons, and then you can pick up attachments to your weapons to make them better. When you kill someone, there isn't just guns splayed across the ground. There's a little box, and you have to sift through the box, and it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of strategy, because if you just run straight to the box and try and loot it, someone may see you and kill you, and you want to sift through that stuff and figure out what's going to work for you, because you have limited inventory. You got to, kind of like Fortnite, you got to pick what you want to take with you. And one of the big things about the game that the Overwatch comparison is each character kind of has an alt, and they're not game breaking alts. They're not going to give you a decided advantage, but they're going to give you a little bit of an advantage. So it feels, to me, from what little I've experienced, it feels very balanced. I've never been overwhelmed by somebody's ultimate move or alt, whatever you want to call it. And to me, I've never felt like I'm getting this unfair advantage as a result, which is actually really nice. It makes every character have its own feel, yet still be a viable character, which is really balanced.
Yeah, but the only one that I think there's any advantage to currently is Caustic, who was one of the paid heroes who has gas mines that you can leave behind and who can also see through smoke, which is a fairly big advantage compared to a lot of the others.
That one is.
And like other than that, I feel like they're all extremely well balanced. But like that passive that he has between being able to leave smoke.
Oh, the
everywhere.
gas guy.
Yeah. Like, that's
don't
the
you have to
only
pay
one...
for him though? You have to pay for him.
Yeah, but I've only played a few games and
pay to win.
Yeah, I think you'll get there pretty quickly though, because you can pay with the whatever the fuck it's called, the real money currency.
The currency.
Or with the in-game one. And I've only played, a handful of games, and I'm like a tenth of the way there. So like if you seriously played, you could get them in like a week.
Yeah.
So it's not like a huge deal, but I still feel like he's slightly overtuned compared to the others, at least currently.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably need to play more to really get a good feel for it, but he seems really good compared to some of the others. So
that's fair. That might be something they iron out a little bit later.
Yeah,
well.
I'm sure some of it'll get tweaked here and there.
For sure.
I'm surprised you're enjoying it as much as you are, Josh, just because of your, like, it kind of has a military sort of aesthetic. It plays a lot like Call of Duty. Like, what's the big separation for some, like, because I remember you were watching us play Blackout and you didn't even want to touch it. So I'm just curious.
I mean, the big thing here is just the movement. The movement is so fast. It's so snappy, so responsive. Every character they don't have wall running TM like in the Titanfall games, but all of them have wall climbing. Like, you can scramble up walls. They're about 12 feet high or so. Like, all of them can, make jumps like that, which gives you a lot of mobility. All of them speed up whenever you are sliding downhill, and there's downhill somewhere nearby you at all times. So you can do like crazy, like speedrunning type stuff where you're like picking up speed and doing jumps and climbing. Have you used any of
the little zip lines or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can do similar things with that because you can like jump off and on a zip line at any point to speed up, change direction, and it's just like it's a joy to move in this game, and that makes such a huge deal in any game that you're playing. That is the first thing you notice whenever you turn on this game is how good it feels just to move.
Yeah, well, that's Respawn's thing,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think that's always been the appeal of Call of Duty too. I mean, you don't have as much mobility, but for the most part, it's a slickness and a speed to it.
Well, more to the gunplay, because all the guns in that game have such low time to kill on it. It ends up slowing the game down because if you ever run out into the open, you just instantly die. Whereas in this one, it's not like Overwatch levels, but you all have a decent amount of health, so you're safe enough moving around that you don't feel like you're constantly pinned down. Like you always feel like you have options to, to reposition and stuff. Which it makes the game just feel more fast-paced, because even though it takes longer to kill someone, it means you're just between that slightly more survivable health pool and much more mobility. It just makes it feel like you have the option to move at all times.
Yeah, this one thing that's really good about this game is this like healthy balance, which we're kind of alluding to, is the map is big enough to where you're not going to run into people and you're just stuffed in there, but it's not so large that you're spending a quarter of the map running like you do in Fortnite. Like, a quarter of my time playing Fortnite was gathering supplies and running from area to area. And this game, it's really balanced in that regard, and that helps with how fast the gameplay is. Yeah. Well, and it's so well balanced with all its mechanics.
All the weapons are pretty good from the get-go. Like, you don't really have tiers of weapons other than the legendary ones that you can get at like the like hot zone areas where
the vendor,
where like everybody's going to be collapsing on. But other than that, all the weapons are basically the same. So you pick up one at the beginning and you're as lethal as you would be later on, which is cool. It's a good feeling. It doesn't make it so like, oh, well, I guess I found a gray weapon here. I better avoid everyone until I find something that isn't complete garbage.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you feel lethal pretty early on in each match.
Yeah.
That's like you don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
ahead.
One thing I noticed about the game that I don't like as of right now, that like it has a really great balance between everything it's trying to do. For me, and maybe this was just my experience the past 2 times I've played, but it's been really difficult when I hop into a map finding a weapon right off the bat. I played one game yesterday where I spent like almost 5 minutes trying to find a fucking weapon. Yeah. And the 2 guys I was running with just kept picking up every weapon. And I was like, God damn it, I need a fucking weapon. And they're just ignoring me, and I'm trying to find these weapons. And in a game like this, where it's predicated on you, essentially, it's much more team driven than Fortnite for sure. In my opinion, that if you get on a shitty team and they're not,
they're like picking up all the shit.
Yeah, then you're fucked. You're fucked.
Yeah.
And like that definitely happened to me last night. I was running around for almost 5 minutes with just grenades. And it's interesting. I mean, like, that's the nature of online play, no matter what. Like, that'll never change.
You'll get stuck with complete idiots occasionally. One of the things I've noticed there that kind of helps alleviate that is to, if you're on a random team, assume that they're idiots and like break formation before your jump master gets you all the way to the ground. Because you can actually see that the chests in this game are huge compared to stuff like Fortnite. So if you like watch on your way down and like, a few seconds before you actually get to the ground, just like break off and beeline for a chest so you don't get completely screwed by an idiot teammate.
Well, that's the weird thing.
I've had a little
opposite.
better luck with that.
Yeah, I haven't had that issue only because like every time I've been with a team, they basically land in an area where there's like 4 or 5 giant chests and everyone just scatters and grabs guns. So I haven't had personally the gun issue happen to me because for some reason, every time I'm with the team, they just land in one of those like major drop areas where there's like 4 or 5 giant chest things and I just grab something. But
I've had a couple good teams like that where like they don't really have weapon rarities like I was saying, but they have different ammo types.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want to pick a variety so you don't end up taking each other's ammo and stuff.
The big thing about the team emphasis is like all the tagging and all that stuff. I haven't really gotten into a lot of that because it wants me to tag everything, but I haven't really, I haven't felt the need to use it yet, but I feel like that's probably just because my style of play or not, it's kind of a new thing for these sort of games, but the idea is that you can tag things for your teammates. I believe you can tag enemies too. If you see somebody,
you can tag basically anything. Like it's all context sensitive and it's basically the best non-chat communication in any game, period, by a landslide. Like, it is such a huge margin being able to tag. Like, this is something that, even if you have chat, is huge. Like, being able to ping, there's a weapon here, and it'll put something on their screen so they can go directly to it. You don't have to try to describe where in this ridiculous house or whatever this, tiny little item is. And yeah, like, a lot of the usability stuff they've added to this game just streamlines it so much, and like it's something you really need to get used to using, because it helps out so much,
tremendously.
Yeah, just to be able to give people information.
that's the big. Yeah, that's the weird thing about this game, I think, is because when I look at it like big picture, it's obviously a hit. I don't see the characters catching on like an Overwatch level with all the cosplay and the porn and stuff like that, because they just, most of the, like, only two of the characters to me even look cool, like, and that's the falcon or bird guy and then the gas mask guy. I think the other one's kind of stupid, but the idea is good. The idea is smart in today's age as far as the hero thing goes.
Yeah. I don't feel like they're going to catch on quite as much either, but more because, kind of like Shea was saying, they're all basically the same.
Like,
well,
aren't their abilities really unique, or?
Well, they're all unique, but they're just not impactful enough to really latch on to, like, oh, I'm going to have such, other than, like I said, Caustic being a little overtuned right now.
Yeah.
Like, other than that, they all feel close enough together that if somebody picks your favorite, it's not like, oh no, I'll not be able to play the game this time. Like, I'm gonna really suck for having, not being able to pick my favorite character. They all play similarly enough that you're not gonna get, like, screwed because, you just don't know how to play this new hero. There are a couple weird things that will take some practice to learn, which, oddly enough, they need a training mode that doesn't suck. For this reason, the training mode has access to all the guns in it, so you can pick up the guns, learn how they work and stuff like that, but you're stuck with only one legend. Like, you can only play as the healer in there, and you can't even, like, practice all the abilities and stuff. And so kind of learning how those abilities work is something speaking of a competitive environment, they need that going forward. You need to be able to pick which hero you're going to and, like, train with their abilities just to kind of see exactly how they're going to work. Because a lot of them are counterintuitive.
Something like that in the future.
Yeah, a lot of them are counterintuitive. Like, basically, anyone who can call down an airstrike can damage themselves with that airstrike. Which they don't tell you that, and it's something you're not going to learn until you eventually go into a game and realize, oh, they're shooting me too. And, like, that's something you shouldn't be in a competitive game when you find out. Like, they need to have that sort of information in a training mode. Like, you need to be able to play as all the heroes.
Yeah. I hope going forward they do that. Mm-hmm. Like, the training mode itself, to me, like, the dialogue was pretty humorous with the robot. I enjoyed that aspect of it. And I think it was a fairly quick, down and dirty.
It's great for you getting you in the game, and
it gets you in the tutorial quick. It lines you out quick, and you feel like you're ready to go. Bad part for me is I always do this. I don't know why. I always fuck it up every time. I go through the tutorial. I'm like, yeah, I know how to play a fucking shooter. And then I forget, like, half the things that I need to remember. Like, so, like, you guys were talking earlier about the tagging thing. And the tagging thing is one of the best parts of the game, I think, personally. I was on a really good team last night. We ended up going first place, mainly due to them. No consequence to me. I got, like, 1 kill. And they were just really, really good at tagging things. They would tag an enemy. They would tag extra syringes or med kits. They would tag extra shields. They would tag these good attachments to your weapons. Mm-hmm. They were so good at tagging that it made my experience much more kind of, I don't want to say intuitive, but it was easier to get around, and it was easier to get the things I needed because of that tagging system. And for me, I hope in the future, to kind of get back on track to what we were talking about, I hope that they integrate a tutorial that you can play again and again, just with different characters. So you get the
you
feel
can replay
of
the
those
tutorial,
vaults. You get the feel of each character.
Yeah, you need to be able to go in there and mess around with all the characters to really get a feel
that's
of
what
that.
I'm saying.
Yeah. I think the two things that stick with me the most that kind of frustrate me with this genre is that every one of them has like something I like and then something that I wish, like a mission. Like, for example, I still like I know you didn't necessarily agree with this, Shea, and that's fine, but like I still think like the sort of the bright art direction of Fortnite. I know it's kind of gone off the rails lately, but I still always liked that world and that art direction. I just hated the way that game plays. And I like the way this game plays as just as much as, you know, like Blackout, but the art direction to me isn't quite as strong as Fortnite. But it's better than like Blackout might have been the one I liked the most, except for the fact that they had no art direction at all. It was like the most stale looking thing I've ever seen. So like everyone, and I haven't played PUBG to be fair, but so every one of these games for me has like something I really like and then something I wish that another game would incorporate. And that's a personal thing that I have. I think it's. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't dislike the Fortnite art direction. I don't think I implied that, so I just want to make sure that's clear.
Well, you said juvenile, so that's the thing.
I think it does look a little juvenile. It does look a little like a cartoon. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe juvenile wasn't the right word.
Yeah.
In general, but when comparing it to this
Lisa
game,
Frank goes to war.
That's it. I'm going to Twitter. Shea said Fortnite's juvenile.
Oh my god. No, it just, to me, it feels like.
Is it because you associate it with a bunch of little kids playing on their tablets at Taco Bell?
That's definitely part of it, for sure. Absolutely. You know, absolutely.
I think it's fair. I mean, it's hard not to separate them.
I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Like it'd be like if you went back and played Halo 1, which for its time was a beautiful looking game, it was a fun looking game, but the art direction would look a little bit childish, you know, just because it's a little dated.
Yeah.
And then
just with the polygon count, it would kind of feel like playing with Tonka toys these days.
Right. So if we were to compare like Halo 1 to like Halo 3 or to Halo Now or even to Destiny, and that's, to me, what it kind of like, that's why I said juvenile. But like the art direction in this game, I actually really enjoy it. It feels not too military-esque. It feels like a fantasy rendition of like different parts of war in different areas. Like there's a part that feels kind of like, and I don't mean to be any type of insensitive whatsoever, in my mind, what I would depict the Vietnam War to look like. There's a certain section of that looks like this fantasy driven area that looks kind of like that, or you go to a different area and it's a lot more flat, and I imagine that's kind of like what a more World War I type setting would be. Or you go to this other area and there's a bunch of buildings and they're high-tech buildings, and I kind of imagine what a fantasy style war would take place in like a concrete jungle type of setting. Like it has all these different little areas, and it feels like this fantasy yet realistic world, and I really like the art direction in this game.
Yeah, and like I said, that's not it to each their own. It's fine. I think it's definitely a step up from something like Blackout for sure, which is the main issue that I had with that game. Very sterile looking. But not quite as interesting as like Titan. I still think Titanfall had a kind of maybe it's just robots. Maybe just having giant robots makes it a little cooler. I don't know.
I did notice that they put a
awesome,
lot of giant robots just walking around outside the level, so you feel special still. So there it is. I see it. Look at the big robot.
Anyway, we got a lot to talk about, so I think that's a pretty good transition for us. Sounds like you and Josh are enjoying it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I still walk out and get shot in the first couple minutes, so I don't think this game is ever going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad you and a lot of other people seem to be really digging it, and it's cool. The biggest thing I thought about with this was that it dropped for free, right? Everyone can play it for free, and that's really cool. Like, why do you have to pay for Blackout? Why the fuck do you have to pay for Call of Duty Blackout? That's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
Well, I think that tells you all that you need to know about where the Call of Duty franchise has gone. That right there.
It's just interesting. Yeah, it's just. I mean, I know you get other things in
They
that
still
game.
make
like
single player campaigns in those games for some reason, and I think that's
well,
the
not
price tag. So
Well, not Blackout. Blackout didn't.
But yeah, exactly. Like, why? What are we paying for with that one? Like,
I mean, even if they sold the other stuff, like I think the Blackout mode it probably would have been a lot more popular if it was free. Because if we live in a world now where people are like, Apex Legend, oh, how much is it? Free? Okay, I'll download it. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of where we're at.
Like I'm curious about that with like Destiny even, like because I've not kept up with it because of the expansion prices, but I'm curious if they get enough new people to make their money with like loot boxes and crap in that game if they make it free to play. I'm sure there's somebody who decided that it wasn't worth it, but I'm curious because it's got to be getting close.
I feel kind of guilty about that because there's so much good single player content and the worlds are so beautiful, and I just feel like it sounds kind of a derogatory thing to say multiplayer games should be free, but I just feel like you're getting, I don't know. That's a debate for another day. It sounds like you guys are enjoying it though, so that's cool. I wanted to say by the way, our Patreon page is try to find a good transition here. You go to patreon.com/swordchomp. And if you look for our VIP tier, it's a $5 tier where you can get access to a top secret Instagram page that we have. And right now we're doing some cool stuff. I'm showing people a tour of my podcast studio and all the gaming things I've collected over my life. There's lots of inside jokes in there. If you're a fan of the show, special videos and pictures and things like that we make. And it's for the hardcore, but you also support us in the process, and that means the world to us. So if you go to patreon.com/swordchomp, you can support us. Look for that VIP tier. I want to transition to Kingdom Hearts. So this is pretty interesting. We talked about this last week. We wanted to get our first impressions of Kingdom Hearts 3. Fish actually spent 3 hours with it last night, so we could talk about it on the show. So good job, Fish. You did it. Taking it for the team. So I'll bring Fish in here first. Josh, I know, has a lot to say too. He gave us some impressions last week, but I know it was at the very end of the podcast. And Fish, I know we haven't heard from you in a while because you didn't jump into Apex Legends. So you spent 3 hours last night. You wanted to make sure you got to the gummy ship because you're a fucking sick individual. And we both played a lot of Kingdom Hearts when we were kids, and you bought this for the crew so we could share it on Xbox, which is kind of funny because you kicked me off last night when I was trying to play some. It's the way it goes.
It's a small price you pay for playing a game for free.
That's true. But yeah, so you spent 3 hours with the game, Kingdom Hearts. What are your first impressions? What are you thinking about it, feeling about it? Talk to me.
For one, the story. I feel like within that first 3 hours, I felt like there was probably an hour and a half of just dialogue between characters and cutscenes. And that got a bit frustrating for me because at that point, like, I already knew, all the main characters, Donald, Goofy, Sora. They're sort of, I don't want to say cringy moments and camaraderie that they have, but it's up there. Like I understand it's kind of geared towards kids. It's the Disney franchise and SquareSoft, and them making something that's accessible to all ages. And you have to know that going into this game, otherwise, if you're going in there for any other thing, like, you're gonna be sorely disappointed. And
oddly enough, like, that seems to get better as it goes because it becomes a running thing. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, like particularly, like, Sora or Donald will say something that isn't quite true, like a slight lie in order to try to make things not awkward, and Goofy will correct them. And that's happened like over and over again, where like he'll bring something up and just make the conversation ridiculously awkward because he had to correct one of them on something, and it kind of becomes a running thing. But yeah, nice. Like at the beginning, you don't have context for it yet, and it's like it's super awkward, and you don't realize that it's going to be a thing.
Well, yeah. Well, and the dialogue is awkward, and that's kind of the joke about everyone who's commenting on our Instagram page was talking about how the dialogue is a little off-putting, which is I don't know if it's always been that way or if that's just the way it seems to me now because I was younger. I don't know. I don't have the reference.
It's pretty much always been that way. It's always been the melodramatic, square-soft, like Final Fantasy VIII, but somehow even more childlike. Type melodrama stuff in Kingdom Hearts. Like it's always been that way. So
the benefit of those older Final Fantasy games though is that there was no voice acting. So you could read it in your head in a very convincing and beautiful way. And no one had to deliver it. Not a 30-year-old Haley Joel Osment with a beard delivering lines of a child.
mm-hmm.
It's weird that they chose to start the game. I wish they would have thrown me into like the Toy Story world or something like that exciting. Right off the bat, I'm like, oh, Olympia, great. Hercules, great.
Yeah, it was interesting because I couldn't, like, I think they were trying to have you revisit someplace from before just to kind of show you, like, how cool it was compared to the old games. Just, like, because that way you had a point of reference. Because the Olympia worlds have always basically been, like the boss run or the challenge level worlds before.
Exactly.
So you're basically just in the arena. And in this one, you're like fighting Hades
good reason.
all the way up through, Olympus, and like it's just big,
going through Thebes,
like Uncharted-esque, story stuff, like scripted events happening all over the place. Thing that jumps right into, which I agree kind of felt weird because it was so like AAA game-esque compared to a lot of the other ones.
Yeah. I mean, all the characters are there. Like the world is there. Like the familiarity of previous games is there. It just doesn't feel like it has like that Kingdom Hearts soul that I remember it in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's the thing is people are speculating that maybe some of this stuff was the problem is when you have a game that's made over this course of time and has had this many production problems. This is the thing I hate, but I understand is that people try to speculate. Oh, maybe they made this 7 years ago, or maybe they didn't know how to start the game. Like there's all these theories flying around. That I mean, it's fun to speculate about, I guess, if that's what you're into. But you're just kind of like, oh, that's a little weird. But it's been difficult for me to get into. It's been difficult for me to get into that first area. So you kind of have to power. I would say that to anyone, just power through it because it sounds like from talking to Josh and other people that it does get. Once you start getting the world,
it's not
Toy
even
Story,
bad.
Martian.
It's just you have basically no frame of reference for why you're doing anything at the beginning.
Yes,
like I was saying, because the intro gives you a huge. It's really good at giving you like a 10,000 foot overview looking down of what the hell's happening in the story, but like as far as why you are where you are doing what you're doing at the beginning of the game, you've got fucking nothing. Like there's nothing to go on. And so it's just like that's
the only thing I'll respectfully disagree with you on is I did not feel like it caught me up at all.
Like it tells you who all the major players are, and oddly enough,
no, it doesn't. It's a music video with people fighting each other. There's no dialogue.
So you completely skipped the story this far thing before you even start the game.
I didn't see that. I did not.
It's in the main menu, and after you finish that intro cutscene, it asks you if you know what the fuck's going on. And if you don't, it'll let you play it directly from in the game if you have no clue what the fuck is going on. So, given both chances to find out what the fuck was going on, you said, no, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Like, I really wish that dialogue option was in the game.
Like if it.
Do you know what the fuck's going on?
Right?
I don't remember that at all.
No.
You know what? It might have been. I did skip some of that. I think it's because I was trying to play on Fish's profile and I was jumping through that opening movie.
It's kind of like
I might have got disoriented.
It shows up
I
where
legitimately don't remember that.
Basically, where any other NPC would show up and ask you if you wanted to see the tutorial again.
Does it say tutorial though?
No, it doesn't. It's got two
Okay.
options. Like, do you know what's happening in the story, or do you want to know more about the combat? And you
See, I
probably
don't-
skip both.
Yeah, because it seemed like one of those things where the game's like, do you know what are you talking about after you fight that first thing on the clouds?
Like after the initial first, like, Heartless boss.
practice
which is,
battle. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, which is like the same first boss that's been in every single Kingdom Hearts game at this point.
Yeah,
But,
I
like-
thought it just conveyed, like, do you know how to play the game? And I was like, yes, I know.
Well,
how to
one
play
of the
game.
options is, like, specifically, do you know what the story is going?
God damn it! I
Yeah.
didn't see that at all. Did you watch that thing, Fish?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Was it helpful?
I mean, for me, it kind of flashes through a lot of those events like in a very quick pace where like you see one thing and you get to thinking, okay, that's what's happening, and then they jump to another thing and your brain has to immediately process that, which is kind of the Kingdom Hearts type of story that I'm used to, but like them delivering it like that over the whole arc of Kingdom Hearts thus far as story goes, like it was a lot to process for me, and I couldn't keep up with it about a quarter of the way through it too. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't feel lost in the story because I've always been lost.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's fair. What the hell did I really miss?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest thing, though, is that Sora is not even really the main character of this story anymore. Like, he hasn't been for, like, the last 5 games. And so he's still not even really the main storyline there. Sora is kind of like his own MacGuffin in this series at this point. And, like, the actual story is revolving around other people. And so if you're not following along with that, it can be really awkward.
I
trying to
will
figure out
say
what's happening.
yeah, no, I agree. I will say that the song at the beginning was not as bad as I remembered it being. Maybe I found a weird clip on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I love it.
You may
was
have watched it
not as
on a
bad.
phone. On a
Yeah,
phone,
yeah.
dubstep is like the worst because there's no bass to drop. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Skrillex elements of the song are not super intrusive, so it's fine. And they threw that opening video together in it. I guess that's just the weird thing about sort of perspective in time, because when I was a kid, I would have had chills, running up my spine, and now I'm just like all these goofy looking kids and Disney characters. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. I don't know how I even feel about some of that stuff. But anyways, you get into the game and it plays like Kingdom Hearts. It's weird because the combat system is like 5 seconds into it. I do agree, Josh, in the first 3 hours of the game I've played, I don't think I've even been touched by an enemy so far.
Yeah.
And I'm not even particularly good at video games, so I would just jump, spot, jump,
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The combat's really easy, and yeah, like I said, the one death I've had in this game was from my controller dying, and for some fucking reason, this is the only game on the PS4 or on anything in the last 10 years where if your controller dies, the game doesn't pause.
That happened to me. Well, I was kind of spacing out and checking my phone, and that first boss in the Hercules area was like stomping me around, and that's how easy this game is. I was about to die because I had not been playing, and I just started spamming whatever those special attacks are on Y,
Mhm.
where it's just like, and then Hercules picked me up and threw me, and then I killed the boss in like 3 hits. I was like, all right, well, that's great.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty easy, like, especially, yeah, it really is. But I mean, that's tough though, because I feel like there's a lot of action RPG games that have. It's been a good era between Nier and Final Fantasy 15, where like action RPG combat's been pretty good. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to feel
Mhm.
about.
Yeah, like I mean, I could give them a pass if there weren't like 18 other lower difficulties that they could make this easy. Like, I'm playing on hard and it's still this easy. Like, what are the lower difficulties for? Like, if
Well,
you're
yeah.
just shit stomping everything on hard mode, what even is the other difficulties? Does the game just play itself? Like, what's
Well, like would the hard difficulty just be like an increased HP? Because at some point that's not really more interesting. It's just
Well, enemy attacks are gonna be more damaging, so you actually have to avoid stuff instead of
I
just
guess,
like
yeah,
tanking
yeah.
it all.
your
Um,
mind. That's the problem I have, is my mind kind of goes slack when I'm playing it because I don't have to think.
Yeah,
I
you
just-
don't. You can take hits in this game. It doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plus you have your party that will auto heal you as well. So I mean,
yeah, they do. Yeah, like the one time you get hit, he's like, "Here you go." I'm like, "All right, fine."
Mm-hmm.
I still wonder if that's because of the audience they're trying to gear this toward.
Yeah, I do, but like I said, I still think.
I'm not saying it makes it right. I'm just saying.
No, the hard difficulty needs to be at least make you think about the combat. Like it should not just be mindless on hard mode.
Especially if it's the third game, most people who are playing this are probably invested in these kinds of games and the other games in the series.
Yeah.
So like it's strange.
Yeah, it's odd. Like I don't even care about difficulty that much in games. Like I just not even a thing. It's just when you have that many difficulty options right at the beginning and the hard mode is not hard at all. Like it's still the hard mode of this game is one of the easiest games I've played in years. Like
yeah.
It's
too bad. So Fish, all right, tell me about the gummy ship. How do you feel about the fucking gummy ship? Let's hear.
Well, like Josh said in our previous podcast, it is open world. But I didn't get to customize my ship or anything. It was just the first opening to where I had to go to another place. So
yeah, they spit you right out in the world before you have a chance to customize.
Right. Yeah.
In the intro.
Yeah. But you do get to explore around and see what it's about, get used to the controls and everything, and it seems like something I would probably get down with. Because there's I guess like treasure spheres around the world that you can unlock, and they're kind of like a puzzly in nature, very easy puzzle. I wonder if they get harder.
It's odd. They gave a tutorial with the impression that this would be a puzzle, and I've not found one that way yet. Like. So eventually they must get there, but I haven't found one that was actually a challenge at all. Like, it was still just kind of like shoot anything you see has been all the ones I've seen so far. So
shoot it. And, it was just a sphere where you like shoot at the certain points that turn it counterclockwise or clockwise, and you line up the grids, kind of like a pipeline type of game. As you
a pipeline, what's that? A pipeline kind of game.
I don't know what
the hell does that even mean?
You know the hacking mini game in BioShock, where you have to get the flow of the kind of like that. You're essentially lining up lines, turning a gear type of thing to line up lines to where.
Woo! This sounds thrilling. You are selling me on this.
Yeah. It was interesting, but I mean, there's enemies, of course, that you fly around and shoot at, and whenever you can actually pick your battles, as in this one, where it's just not a bunch of enemies flying around the screen. You'll actually see a battle enemy flying around, and if you fly up to them, then that's when enemies start showing up, and you get the kind of the traditional gummy ship experience with that, and you get graded as well.
Yeah, but the only time you'll be surprised by an enemy is if you're like hiding in an asteroid or something, and then realize it's not an asteroid. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, I like the fact that you can explore around with the gummy ship. It's I don't know if I like it better though than like the standalone levels of Kingdom Hearts 2, where each level you get to replay if you want to go back with it, and you know exactly where the enemies are gonna pop up, and kind of perfect your score. I mean, you can still do that with that in this game, but add in that exploration with it. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to put some more hours into the game and definitely delve deeper into the gummy ship, but it seems promising to me. That's why I'm kind of excited for it, but I only put in 3 hours into the game and got up to the gummy ship part, so.
Yeah, I'm glad you bought it though, Fish, because for me it hasn't really been grabbing me yet for the reasons we've all talked about, but I have to see it through. I have no choice. It's part of my obligation. And so I think it's something I'll probably try and come back to when it's a little quieter, because
Yeah.
There's a lot going on right now that I really do want to play, and I don't want this to sound too negative to a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans out there. It's just like this is my quick run through. The story, there's really nothing there. The dialogue with the combat so far, my brain just goes slack. Like when I'm playing it, I don't dislike it. I'm just not mentally engaged in any way. I feel like my brain is drifting off to think about other things because there's nothing that's engaging me. Like there's no dialogue. There's so many games now that have. That's one of my favorite part about games now. It's why we do a podcast. I just love dialogue. I love the art of dialogue. I love people talking. And every time someone opens their mouth in this game, I shudder. So I don't know. I'm having trouble with it, but I got to see those worlds through at some point. I got to see the Toy Story world. I got to see the Monsters Inc. world.
The Toy Story world is great because that's one of the ones like I was telling you last week has like the toy mechs in there, which are actually pretty fun because, like I was saying, they're designed to get broken, so the combat is more challenging whenever they're around. And
I'm just seeing the world like the art for the most part. I think they captured the look of Kingdom Hearts. Like it looks, I'm playing on Xbox One X, and it looks pretty good. I mean, it really like for the most part, like as far as that art style, that cartoony look goes, I think everything looks really smooth. Well. It looks pretty good. Like the first area they started me in the tutorial, I was like in the very Final Fantasy-esque. It was like clouds, but like when you walked around, you saw like water ripples, like you were in the clouds, but somehow walking on water. It made no sense, and that's what I loved about Final Fantasy is they would do all this ridiculous stuff that didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
haven't seen a Final Fantasy character yet.
I haven't either. And
oh no, are you serious?
Yeah,
No.
like 20 hours in, and there aren't any. So I don't know what creative decision led to that. Like, they were basically only in supporting roles ever before. So I don't really know where they'd show up, but
they made a big deal about how to use them.
Yeah, it is strange that I've not seen any so far.
That's why I thought for sure you were going to say the opposite, Josh. That's horrifying.
Yeah,
really
well, then again, because the game doesn't like immediately start out in some hub world, like all the other games have had like some weird, completely made up, only for Kingdom Hearts world right at the beginning. And this one goes back to Twilight Town, so you're not in a new world yet. Like there's no new world. Like there's no new place for all the Final Fantasy characters to show up. And so I'm wondering if once there's got to be a completely new world at the end that's not like a Disney themed one, like a completely new Kingdom Hearts world. And I'm expecting to see the Final Fantasy characters start showing up around then, if I had to guess, because that's kind of where they've been in the past. They've never.
Well, they found cool ways to do it, like when you got to that. Even like in Olympia in the past, and you saw Cloud and Hades were
but those
quarreling.
Are like optional bosses and stuff, and like I'm not.
Well,
to
no,
that
but
point
he had
yet,
cuts.
so.
But Cloud had like cutscenes where he was talking to Hades and stuff, and like the Squall had cutscenes. Like they were characters, like they were support characters, but it was I don't know. Maybe it makes me wonder how much. Back in the day, I was just like fanboying, like it's Cloud.
Yeah,
ooh, it's Squall.
Part of me wonders that too. Like everyone got into that series because they were huge fanboys of something, and you were just a Final Fantasy fanboy. And since they've scaled that back, like you're done now.
Now it's just the Disney, which is I like Disney as much as the next person. But I mean, if it was a Disney game that released, I don't think people would be clamoring for it. Like, dude, we gotta play that new Disney game, you know? So I don't know. It's tough. It's an interesting decision that they sound like they've made creatively to do that. So
yeah, I mean,
it's a weird thing.
Long term, what eventually gets there? Because yeah, I'm sure they're in there somewhere.
Fish, do you have any other thoughts on this before we move on from your first couple hours that you feel like you need to get off your chest? You need to say it with your chest.
I do. The combat is indeed kind of boring in this game. And I'm wondering if it was like that with the previous two games that I played. But they do add this new thing called attractions, which I kind of enjoy. They're
the attractions? You mean the attractions?
the attractions.
There you go.
It's the abilities that you can use in fight that after I guess you go in. I don't know how exactly you trigger them.
If you hit any enemy with a green outline, you get one of those triggers. And that oddly enough seems to be where the challenge is in the combat, because you can use those things and go for a high score because there's no challenge in the actual combat, so you may as well use one of those contextual things and try to beat your high score.
Well, the one showed up on the first boss for me, but I don't know why. It was just like, press this button for the big train ride to come out. And then I was driving this train around a Titan and shooting it, and I was like, but I don't know why it showed up or anything. And the weird thing was, I wasn't doing a lot of damage with the train, but like when it got around it, I pressed finish and it blew up in its face and killed it in one hit. It took like 80% of its health, like spontaneously combusting. So I was like, what? I could have just blown up in front of its face. Like, it's weird. Like, you just figure stuff like that on your own, I guess. It's odd. This game is very weird. This is a weird game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Perplexing, maybe, is a better way to say it. So you're saying the combat hasn't really scratched. It does make you wonder if the Kingdom Hearts combat was a little well, it was of a different era, though, to be fair.
Well,
it was
2 is still way better, like I was saying, because like I've had that collection, and 2, they put all their effort into that, and every game since then, they've tried to make it just as pretty as 2, but without the actual depth that combat system had.
Yeah, it's like they kind of got away from the fact that it was a game and we're just trying to finish the story in some.
Yeah, so everything is just as flashy as it was in 2, because 2 added a bunch of those crazy flashy moves that you could do in there. But now all those flashy moves are as powerful as they looked like they should have been in 2, and everything just dies instantly. Like, you just, yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, I do want to take this moment to say that we are sponsored by Sassy D merch, all right? And talk about weird mashups. This is not a weird mashup because they're all about dick jokes, and so are we. But no, they sponsor us. There's some really cool guys that run it. And if you go to @SassyD merch, you'll see them all over our Instagram page. You can go check out their designs and their merchandise. They just dropped one called the Mermaid. That's pretty cool. You should check it out. Of course, they have the legendary Pikachu one that has to be seen to believe. They're really cute and clever, but they also make great gag gifts. Like, I'm looking forward to giving my sister one of these on Christmas or for her birthday or something, just so she opens it up and she's like, "What the heck?"
It's going to be an actual ball gag. It's you say gag gift, but it's going to be an actual ball gag.
Yeah, I'll put a ball gag inside of the mug. There we go.
That's
that's a weird. You can't get a gift like that for your sister.
You can't give your
That's
sister
weird.
a ball gag.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Oh man, yeah, that's
You know
weird.
what's crazy, Morgan? Is I was actually talking to those guys, Sassy D merch guys, and they recently just revealed to me that their mermaid mugs are already completely sold out because Fish has purchased all of them.
Yeah.
Oh
I
man.
mean, I thought I'm pretty sure those things were a limited run. Turns out they're not, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with 50. Mermaid mugs. But
Yeah. Fish got all of them and realized he needed a smaller size.
Because
You need a little teacup? Is that what you're saying? Not a mug, but a teacup?
We need to get in touch with them. Can you guys make a thimble version of Fish's favorite design?
yeah.
@Sassy D merch, check them out. They sponsor Sword Chomp. I got some polls I want to get to as well. We've hit a lot of the main games we wanted to talk about. I've been previewing this right before I get to the polls the whole time, and this is a great bit of comedy. So if you've stuck in for the show, you're in for a treat. As you heard at the beginning of the show, Fish was careful to tell us that he had enjoyed beating my ass with Richter, and I whooped him with Sonic, and it turned into this whole thing. This is about a minute long. But I think our fans will love it. I think you, Josh, and Shea have not heard this yet, so this is one of my favorite things to do on the podcast. This is a real voice message from Fish. Let's do it.
No, Dude, the entire time I was fighting you, I was just laughing my ass off. Even Sonic, like, it was just annoying because he kept doing that, like, twirl thingy. Does like 3 damage or whatever, some weak ass fucking shit. You gotta hit me like 100 times to even get me up to 100%. I was just laughing my ass off over that. But it is what it is, you know. I got something for Sonic's ass and sudden death. He's gonna get a fucking cross thrown right through his fucking heart. I'm gonna kill everybody's favorite blue blur of a fucking dumb mascot that should be dead by now. I don't even know why he's alive. Oh, wait, yeah, he should be alive because of Sonic Mania, right?
Huh.
That's me slurping on Richter's big dick.
Huh.
And
Wow.
you wanna hear me slurping on Sonic's dick? That's it. That's the whole length. It's like, whoa, weird. I thought there was a dick here. Must have just got pubic hair.
What?
Wow. You know, that went from like angry old bitter man who is too competitive to admit that he lost fair and square to incredibly homoerotic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to my mind.
Look, I told
Welcome
you,
to Fish's Friday nights.
Yeah.
Sonic's best attribute is the speed. It's like a small vibrator. Okay, it's not about the length. All right? We talked about this before.
That's why they call him the Blue Bullet.
Got that spin dash. Anyways, that brought me great joy, but I wanted to go through some polls here that we've had running up every Monday and Tuesday. And some of these topics are going to fly right back into things we already talked about. So I probably should have split them in there, but whatever. We're going to run through them because they're good. That's my big sell. They're good. By the way, Fish, I put in our story that you said Skyrim was overrated last week, and it was the most I've ever had anyone message me privately from the story. Rage, confusion, disgust.
Confusion.
You name it.
Huh? Skyrim? Why are you hitting on that now?
It's never too late for Fish to destroy your dreams. So if you didn't hear that, check out our last podcast. That was a fun discussion. First poll of the week, I said, so Apex Legends buzz is quite high, and the two choices were more Battle Royale, meh, or Titanfall Royale, yeah, love it. It came back 58%, let's just round up, 60 to 40. Generally, people are pretty excited about it. And that was probably before some people even got their hands on it. So there might have been some skeptics that tried it, enjoyed it a lot more. Because I feel like we all have that Battle Royale fatigue now, right? You're, another fucking Battle Royale, great.
Yeah.
So the next one, let's see. All right, Kingdom Hearts fans, so far, how has your time with Kingdom Hearts 3 been? This was fascinating because it ended up splitting right down the middle between either it's fine, just fine, or everything I dreamed. So it's about 50-50, which is interesting.
Yeah. And I think, kind of like I was alluding to earlier, a lot of that's going to be how big of a fan you were. Because so much of the story in this game is not based around Sora at all. Like, a lot of the story at this point is kind of revolving around Ventus, Aqua, and Terra, which were the three characters from Birth by Sleep. And kind of their relationship with everything else going on. And kind of like I said before, Sora is almost his own MacGuffin at this point. Like, basically anything that can't be explained with other storyline methods, just because Sora is special, is kind of ends up being the answer. And so, yeah, like, I feel like if you're not really familiar with that game, it's going to be a little bit harder to get into this one. Because I
that's the weird
suggest
thing.
when you go back to
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 3, checking out that story so far thing, because
I
that'll
was
kind of
gonna
get
do
you
that,
caught
yeah.
up on what the hell's actually going on. But still, if you haven't played through that game, it's going to be a little bit harder of a sell because you're not going to already have this connection with these three characters, which were really good, like really good characters from before, but weren't in one of the numbered games so far. So if you missed them, you missed them, and so it's gonna be like, who are these three, and why is the story about them now?
That's such a Square move. Yeah, it's based around these three characters that weren't even in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
Enjoy Kingdom Hearts 3. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's good. That's good advice from someone who knows more about the series than I do. So, I think you'll like this one, Josh. I said, do you consider Smash a real fighting game? Just to get it out there, because there's that. I think there's sort of a undercurrent in the fighting community that some people don't consider a real fighting game. But 77% of our audience said yes, they do consider Smash a real fighting game.
Yeah, like I could see why not at the beginning, because it was not really balanced for the first couple games. They just they didn't really put as much effort into it, because they weren't really making a fighting game as far as they were concerned, like not a super hardcore Street Fighter type game. It was just it was another party game as far as they were concerned, and I think it kind of took them a while. It wasn't until the GameCube when then
Melee, yeah.
they put all the effort into it. Yeah, I think it's there. Like, this game is so tightly balanced compared to even a lot of other fighting games that are going specifically for the fighting game, core audience. And it's really impressive. So
yeah, I think it is. I think you have to kind of change a lot of the settings to make it pure. Like, you got to get Battlefield. I like to take a lot of the items out and shit. You have to purify it a little bit, but I think it definitely is.
Yeah, the items add so much extra randomness in there that, it's kind of it's completely different experience playing with items and all the other crazy randomness that goes on. And there's definitely a place for that, but it's easy enough to turn it off if you don't want any of that randomness in there to make it like a really hardcore fighting game. It gives you the option. So
I think it's a fighting game personally. Like, I used to not consider it one, but I definitely think it is, because you look at first-person shooters, and I think there are different subgenres of first-person shooters now, if we really want to quantify it as such. You have Overwatch kind of doing its own thing, and then you have the traditional first-person shooters, and then you have stuff like these battle royales now that are emerging into their own subgenre, if you can put them in first person. And then you have, I think you could even say you have like shooter RPGs, like something like Fallout, which is both a first-person shooter and an RPG. So I think the same thing here. It is a fighting game. It's just its own genre. It's like an arena brawler, essentially.
Yeah, I feel like there's enough room in the genre now. Like you were mentioning with first-person shooters, like, so many good games were ruined because, it's got to be a shooter. Like, whenever that genre was slowly becoming everything else it's turned into, with the walking simulator and first-person horror games and everything else that it's turned into, there were a bunch of games kind of while that transition was happening that just kind of happened to have a shooter in them that may or may not have needed it, because of all the preconceptions of this is what's got to be there. This is obviously the only way you can interact with the world if we're in first person.
The only thing about it that still is taking me a lot to get used to, I've gone down a pretty dark hole lately. Doesn't make me any better at the game, but I've been looking at different characters' moves and reading a bunch of tier lists and stuff like that. And because I'm just trying to have fun with that side of it. But the one element of the game that's taken me a long time to get used to is normally in a fighting game, you see someone's health, and when you take the last sliver of health, they're dead. And there's this weird dance in Smash where You can have like 150 health, 200 health. I've had the weirdest matches where it's worked in my benefit and against me, where you just do that dance where you're in the red for a long time, and it just depends on if they get the right angle on you to shoot you out of the arena. It's a weird, it's a strange thing, you know. It's not like I know Fish has one sliver of life left, so I'm going to smack that sliver away. It's a different kind of thing that I'm not sure how I feel about it. I've accepted it. It's part of the game.
Yeah,
but
I've always liked that about it, actually, because it's a weird sort of balancing mechanic, because kind of like I mentioned this a little bit before last week with the whole certain moves launch farther. Generally, moves that launch farther have longer wind-ups to them. They're not as safe.
Yeah, they're hard to pull.
They're moves you don't really want to throw out there all the time, because if you whiff them, you get punished. So you kind of want to pull out all the safe stuff to begin with, get their health, you know, like rack up a bunch of damage on them, and then eventually just, you know, knock them out of the ring. But
you just need that one hit.
Yeah, it leads to a really cool flow where, like, you'll put a bunch of damage on them, and then you'll have to go for these riskier moves to finally finish them off, which will kind of give you a chance to even things out. And I've always liked that sort of just the flow to the combat in that series in general. But it's very different. It's not like
I had no idea
anything else. So
I had no idea you could do smash moves on the right stick. I was doing them like the really convoluted way where you have to hit like the attack button and the directional button at the same exact time. And it was like kind of spotty. But yeah, you can there's smash moves on the right joystick. It doesn't make them go any quicker, but it's just like more, like, you know, it's a guarantee. And you can just move that joystick in the direction you want with your other joystick to pull off those smash. It's weird. I've been going into the controls and I've been trying some different things. Like even how the shield works in that game is kind of strange. So it's interesting. Okay, last poll of the day. I want to do this to end the show in a fun way. By the way, of course, as we always end the show, as I mentioned before, patreon.com/swordchomp. If you support us, we love you forever. Shea has a podcast where he interviews developers called Evoking the Sublime. You should download it, check it out. It's on our Instagram feed as well as my podcast, In the Blood, where I interview composers. We haven't been able to update those in a while because we've been really busy and doing other stuff, but we have some great interviews there if you've never checked them out. And of course, you know, we'll be back next week with an amazing show, all sorts of great stuff lined up. But the last poll of the show is one of those sort of goofy polls. And the question is, I'm going to go round robin here. You have 5 seconds to answer, okay? Would you rather be facing a hippo on land or facing a shark, let's say a great white shark, in the water? Fish, go.
I would face a hippo on land.
That's the right choice. Josh.
Probably a hippo. I'm fairly fast. Not a great swimmer.
Agreed. Shea.
I said a hippo. If I was to approach it like kind of semi-logically, there is I always forget the name of the area on the shark, but it's basically on the bridge of the nose. If you touch that area, like you set off this like sensory, and it kind of, I don't want to say incapacitates the shark, but kind of basically, for the lack of a better word, makes it not unconscious, but like you are able to finesse it a little bit. The likelihood that you would get that opportunity to do that while you're being attacked by a shark is infinitesimally small. With a hippo,
to go all shark whisperer on it and then ride it back to land.
That's right. Whereas a hippos are actually surprisingly fast when they strike. So, but that being said, I'm gonna have more maneuverability, more mobility, more speed on land, in theory. So I'm gonna take my chances. I guess it depends on
the rules here too. Like, are we just in an encounter with them, like running away is key, or do we have to actually win this fight? Is it a fight?
Well, I think either way, that's a fair point. I think either way, I would rather. That's tough. I think either way, if you try to fight them,
I've got a better
you're in
chance
trouble.
of actually taking out a shark.
Well, the
stabbing
thing
inside.
Too,
Yeah,
maybe. If we actually had to
because,
beat
like,
the
there
hippo,
are little tiny sharks.
Yeah.
There are tiny sharks. We can end up fighting one of those tiny sharks, and we're okay. At that point, I'll take the shark any day.
Yeah.
And Mosey's gonna.
Can I just club a baby hippo?
No. The irony to this trick, the weird gray area is that you can encounter a hippo in the water and they are fucking fast. They fucking tear you apart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I assume that you were talking about something like a great white shark versus a fully grown hippo, and at that point it would still be a hippo. But if it's anything, I'll face one of those tiny ass sharks in the water. I'll face one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're scary, but not as scary.
I'll kick a lemon shark's ass.
I'll take a nurse shark. They don't seem very scary. 64% of our audience agreed with you all and said they would go with the hippo. A lot of people wanted to point out to me that hippos kill more people a year per year than sharks, but they're also on land with human beings, so that would make the most sense. You just go wandering off the path somewhere in Africa, and all of a sudden you're staring at a hippo. It's not going to happen to many people unless they are
you
going
don't
out of their
wander
way
into the ocean quite as often.
Yeah.
I
would say both deaths would be incredibly painful. I can imagine being bit by a hippo would be unbelievably, like, it's just the bite force. Like, I was learning about that this week. A lion's teeth are not really that sharp. It's the way they use them is kind of like the scissors, like their back teeth are the sharpest, and the way the pressure is what gets you.
Well, actually, what a lot of what causes that bite force is something on the skull called the sagittal crest. And actually, I'm going to do a very quick tangent. I did a kind of a study where at my old university, we compared sagittal crests of house cats, average house cats, versus mountain lions versus lynx. And we found that the bigger the sagittal crest, the more bite force they have in comparison to their body size. So that's a huge driver of that, and that's because that sagittal crest is an attachment point for a lot of muscles that kind of come down in your jaw area. So, little random fact for you guys.
Yeah, was it that extinct frog that we looked at? Did it have one of those powerful sagittal crests? Remember the one with the crazy bite force, that giant?
Yeah, that's one thing I don't remember it being mentioned in the article. Maybe it was, and I'm just forgetting. But that's actually one of the first things I looked for. And I didn't see that in there. But I would imagine, actually, I don't know how frog skulls would work.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. They're generally flatter, so I don't know if they connect exactly the same way.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's something I want to randomly look into now.
Fish, got a question for you. You wanna see my sagittal crest?
No.
Yeah. It's nice.
He's asking if you want to murder him and then peel the skin and muscle off of his skull.
You missed the golden opportunity there, buddy. Sorry. All right. Well, it's been a fun show, and that's going to do it for this week's Chompcast. Thanks for checking it out, hanging with the whole show if you did. We will see you next week.
Thank God, I got a shit real bad. I'll be right back.